Hi guys, and welcome to the Unquendo Guitars workshop. My name is Daniel and this is another part in the video series where I'm building my Phoenix guitar. A clearly Gibson Firebird inspired guitar build. And in the previous episode I put some stain on this guitar top and got the guitar ready for finish. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit nervous about putting the clear coat on this guitar, but that's what we're going to do in this episode. So to clear coat the guitar, I'm going to use the Nitorlack guitar coating system. It's a nitrocellulose based coating system, starting off with 3 to 4 base coats of their clear primer to seal everything in, to fill the smallest pores and give a nice flat base layer to go underneath the top coat, a high gloss nitrocellulose lacquer, another 3 to 4 coats of those. But before I can go and start spraying the finishing product onto the guitar, there's a couple of things I still need to do to the guitar body, and that's, for example, masking off everything I don't want to get covered in clear coat. It really started to pour outside, so hopefully the noise from the rain on the roof of the shed isn't too overwhelming, too overpowering or distracting, but I have to keep going. So let's start masking every part of the guitar I don't want to get covered in clear lacquer, like for example the fretboard. And I like to cover the entire fretboard, also a part of the sides. And I know some only mask the top of the fretboard, but I like to mask the entire fretboard. So very carefully put tape on the side. This is always a bit finicky. But here we go. And wrap it like a present. So the fretboard is nice and protected, and of course there will be some buildup of lacquer on the edge where the masking tape is, but when everything has fully cured and just before polishing I can address that little edge. Yeah guys, and masking humbucker cavities is as much fun as one might expect. And not really necessary, I think, but it has my personal preference to also mask all the cavities. So after finishing off these two humbucker cavities, I also have to do the control cavities on the other side of the guitar. And it doesn't have to be neat, I just want everything to be covered. I don't like, and that's the reason why I do this, I don't like the overspray you see in a lot of guitars, a lot of overspray in the cavities. And they tend to look a bit messy. Of course, no one is going to see it. But I think it's important that I know that these cavities are also nice and clean. And after the guitar is finished and just before polishing, I'm going to apply some shielding conductive paint inside these cavities to make them nice, clean, black, and all that good stuff. Yeah, these two humbucker cavities are masked. Time to do the other side of the guitar. So guys, just a quick little tip or technique for masking these cavities, at least how I like to do it. Piece of masking tape, just stick it on the edge. And then with your finger, lift the masking tape a bit from the edge so it doesn't stick on the horizontal surface. and carefully, not to tear it, press it into the edge with your fingernail. Now you have two options. You can use a knife and keep the vertical part of the masking tape. I'm going to put my knife into this corner right here and run it along. And this technique is also a great way to make a template if you need a template for a cavity. Stick masking tape in it as much as you like using this technique, and once you've cut inside that edge, you can lift the masking tape out and you have yourself an exact copy or a negative copy of your cavity that you can use to make, for example, cover plates. Keep in mind you have to make them slightly smaller unless you want a very tight fit, but I recommend for cover plates making them slightly smaller so you can easily take them out if needed. There we go, one last piece. Next step is taking a very fine sanding pad, and for the last time I'm going to very carefully remove any marks left by a fingernail, by the masking tape, for example, and then we're almost ready for finishing. And of course, after that pass, I'm going to take a piece of cloth and remove all the dust. And I have to do this after every step before I can put it on a hook, which I also need to install, of course, a hook. And start applying the first coats of finish. It's very important that from now on we keep everything as dust free as possible, and off camera I already cleaned the entire shop, especially where I'm going to spray all the lacquer coatings. So, and the last thing to do before we can start spraying the first coat of primer is make sure we can hang the guitar from the ceiling by installing this hook on the spot where eventually the strap lock is going to be. So I'm going to drill a hole and screw in this hook. So, we're ready. So guys, we're at the other end of the workshop, all ready to go to start applying the first coats of primer. As you can see, I've covered the back wall, the cabinets and the drum sander with a sheet of plastic just to protect them from some overspray. I've opened up windows and ventilation holes just off camera. Strung up the guitar or hung up the guitar from a couple of swivels from the beam on the ceiling. And as you can see off camera, I added a piece of wood, just a scrap piece, screwed down with 2 tiny screws into the back of the pickup cavity, so I can control the guitar when I'm spray painting. And this is something I just realized when I hung up the guitar for the first time, that I always struggle to find handholds and to control the guitar when I'm spraying lacquer. And this is a very easy and quick solution to that problem. So now I can control the guitar when I'm spraying the coats of lacquer. Yeah, that's it. I think I'm always a bit nervous at this stage before applying the first coats of lacquer, because here is where it all comes together when it comes to finishing. If there's any scratches left that I missed when sanding and such, any defects that might be present, show up at this stage. And I'm so used to being able to keep fiddling, to keep at it until I'm satisfied when, for example, carving a neck joint. And the finishing stage is different, because after you've sprayed your first coat of primer or lacquer, you can't do anything, and you shouldn't do anything to it. And even if you see a bit of dust or something, you can't do anything about it until the finish is fully cured. And if you missed a spot when sanding and there's a scratch, too bad, you have to start over or get over it. So always a bit scary and a bit difficult process for me finishing a guitar. And with an oil finish, for example, you can keep rubbing, can keep working at it until you're happy. With lacquer finishes, you have to put on the coats of lacquer, leave it, walk away, leave it to cure, and then troubleshoot afterwards. So I'm going to use the clear primer spray from Nitorlack. Yeah, I have to shake it very well for over a minute and then apply it in a single coat. Wait for 24 hours for it to dry, and then come back, sand it down with 800 grit sandpaper just to make it nice and flat. Remove any dust nips and spray another 2-3 coats, 1 coat a day. So a pretty lengthy process. Here we go. So yeah guys, I've been rattling this can for over a minute now, so we're ready to go, but unfortunately it started pouring again, so my apology for the sound of the rain on the roof. Luckily I can keep the relative humidity in the shed well under control, so now I'm at 65% humidity, so that should be good to start spraying the first coats of primer. Of course, I'm going to wear a mask, and then I start spraying. So here we go. So the first coat is on. Now I'll have to wait for 24 hours And then I can sand it back with 800 grit sandpaper and do it again. So guys, it's been 24 hours after I applied the first coat of the primer, and now it's time to sand down the primer, or smoothen it out, I guess, with some 1000 grit sandpaper. It's about 800 to 1000 grit sandpaper according to the manufacturer. So I'm using 1000, that's what they supplied in their sandpaper package. So I'm going to just very gently scuff the surface. I think it's only meant to smoothen the surface before applying the second coat of the primer. And after sanding, I'm going to make sure there's no dust. So I'm using a very soft brush to get into those tight edges and corners, and a clean cloth to wipe off any dust. So the guitar is back on the hook, ready to take the second coat of the primer. I'm using a static towel or a static dusting cloth to dust the guitar for a final time, and use a little brush to make sure there's no dust left in the cavities. That can be a problem, dust gathering in the cavities, and as soon as you start spray painting, it blows out and you have dust particles all over your coating. And I'm always a bit worried about dust. I had to redo several guitars in the past because of enclosed dust particles. So yeah, I think it's dust free. So now I can take the rattle can and start shaking it for a minute. So here we go, guys. Put on a mask. Come on. And let's start spraying. So guys, the second coat of the primer is sprayed. I'm going to take a break again, let it cure for 24 hours and repeat the process by sanding and spraying the next coat of the primer. In the previous clip I mentioned it started to rain, and at that time I was able to control the relative humidity and the temperature here in the shed, but unfortunately over the last couple of days it kept raining, and to make matters worse the temperature dropped, skyrocketing the relative humidity here in the shed. And to make things worse, the current dew point, so that's the temperature at which the humidity in the air can condense, firstly against glass and surfaces, and maybe your newly freshly sprayed guitar. So those things combined, so relative high humidity, dropping temperatures, and a dew point that's very close to the ambient temperature, made it so that I can't spray the guitar here in the shed anymore. And that put me up for a challenge, and I think I found a solution, and that's in this box. I'm going to move my spraying operation indoors, and first I'm going to set up a temporary spray booth inside. So I think everything I need is in this skiff or in this bin. I'm going to add some tools and I'll see you inside to set up my temporary inside spray booth. So. Hi guys, and welcome in the Unquendo Guitars showroom, and I think for now this is where I'm going to try and set up my temporary spray booth. So here's all the equipment and parts we're going to need, and the plan is to clear this wall to move my computer, move some guitars to the other side or maybe into the office that's on the other side of this wall, clear everything out and set up my spray booth right here. So first let's start clearing out all these guitarist magazines and guitar books, move the computer, and yeah, move some guitars and make some space to put up the booth. And if this doesn't work, I'm going to move everything back and I have to clear out a section in the office if that's more suitable, but this is the room where I have the most space currently. So let's move the table out of the way. And of course, a lot of guitars in this room that I'm also going to move out. So guys, I've cleared everything from this side of the room and moved most of the stuff into the office. And before I'm going to set up the indoor spray unit, or my solution to an indoor spray unit, there's something else I'm going to do. And that's I'm going to install a air dehumidifier, because I noticed that now that I'm in here for an extended period of time, the relative humidity already started to rise from 60 to now 67, and I want to keep it around 60. It's what the manufacturer Nitorlack advises, to spray their products in a relative humidity from about 40 to 70% and in temperatures of in between 15 and 30 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to sit smack bang in the middle. Let's install the dehumidifier first. It's more an unboxing than it is installing. Come on. Go. So guys, and the actual spray booth I'm going to use is from a very well-known Swedish company that sells a lot of furniture. And this is a wardrobe. it's a wardrobe, but actually it's more like a tent, and I think this will be perfect as a spray booth. And you can see how small the package is, so as soon as I am done spraying I can just fold it back together and store it somewhere very easy. So, and of course first the instructions. It's Ikea furniture, so do yourself a favor and read the instructions. And it already looks fairly complicated. Yeah, I think I can manage. So, here we go, and you can see it really is just like a tent. Alright, these are all the components. Just follow the instructions. We're getting somewhere as soon as the tension is in. So guys, I think we've got ourselves a spray booth. I think it might be the perfect solution for now. And I've chosen this wardrobe because there's already a rail here where you usually hang your clothes from. And I'm going to add this swivel. So, and that swivel should help me to hang my guitar in the spray booth, nice and centered, and I can spin it around as much as I like. So yeah guys, here we have it, a very quick, cheap and simple temporary spray booth. Yeah, I think a nice feature also is that you're able to close it off to prevent any dust or maybe insects entering your spray booth and getting stuck inside your freshly sprayed coat of clear. So yeah, I'm very pleased at this point. Of course, sanding will still be done in the shed. I don't want to contaminate this space with fine dust, so every time just before I'm going to spray another coat, I will take it out into the shed, sand it, dust it off, and bring it back inside. Let it acclimatize a bit, so get to the correct temperature, to room temperature again, and then spray a coat of clear. Let it sit here for 20-ish hours, something like that. Take it back to the shed, and so on until I'm done with clear coat. If the smell gets too overwhelming inside the house, because yeah, it's a lacquer, it can smell quite bad sometimes. I always have an option to add an extraction fan and run a hose out of this room into the next room and out of the window or up into the chimney maybe. But we'll see. Of course, I'm going to first try it like this. But for now, with the booth setup, I'm going to leave everything overnight right here. I'm going to turn on the de-humidifier to get the relative humidity of this room back to about 60%. The temperature up to a steady 20 degrees Celsius. And then tomorrow I'm going to sand the guitar real quick downstairs, bring it back inside, hang it here for another hour before I'm going to spray another coat of the primer. So guys, a lovely 20 degrees, 51% relative humidity. Time to spray another coat. So guys, it's time to take the guitar from the temporary spray booth and take it back into the shed. And yeah, I once again have to apologize for the sound quality in this video, unfortunately. I keep struggling with the gain levels on my mic setup, and especially right now, having to move all the camera equipment from the shed upstairs every day, 2 times a day, doesn't help. And in previous clips, I didn't realize I had connected the wrong output of my wireless system to the input on the camera, and that meant that all the gain on the audio of the previous clips was way too high, rendering it unusable. So my apologies once again for the audio quality, and that's a bit of a downside of shooting these videos by yourself, is that you don't have someone to check the audio when you're recording. So if something goes wrong, sometimes it takes an entire day before you realize something has gone wrong with the recording. So that said, let's take the guitar from the spray booth down into the shed again, and I'll see you guys in a moment. So guys, we're in the shed, very carefully sanding back the last coat of primer, just a tiny bit, and I'm now using a sanding pad, and it's around 800 to 1000 grit. It doesn't really say the exact amount of grit, it just says ultra fine. And I think it's comparable to, yeah, like I said, somewhere between 800 and 1000 grit. And to finish off, I'm going to use the Nitorlack 1000 grit. And what I'm doing right now, my main focus is try to very carefully just roughen up the freshly sprayed surface a bit, and I'm hunting for tiny imperfection, tiny bits of dust or and things like that that has been caught in the last coat of primer, and you can really easily identify them. They leave a tiny white bright spot, and I'm going to just very carefully sand that spot a bit until it disappears, and I'm trying to take as little off as possible, of course, and just sand the entire guitar. And I can now use a circular motion to sand the guitar, and then afterwards I'm going to use the 1000 grit Nitorlack sandpaper to do a single wipe in the grain direction to remove any swirl marks possibly made by this sanding pad. Yeah guys, on the mahogany you can clearly tell whether or not you need to apply another coat of primer, and that's when you can still see some of the white dust gathering in the open pores. And of course I applied a pore filler, but when sanding back the pore and grain filler, of course you're going to open up some very tiny new pores. And that's where the sanding dust collects right now, and I'm going to keep applying coats of the primer just until the point that I don't see the dust gathering in those pores when sanding. So a quick little pass on the mahogany side. I'm going to sand the belly carve, and I'm going to be very careful not to hit this edge and this edge too much. Edges is always something to take care of when sanding back a finish. Usually these are the areas where the finish is thinnest. So, make sure to remove any dust particles that may be present in the last coat. And here we are. So we're back upstairs at the temporary spray booth. The guitar is hanging all dusted, all ready to go. And let's check the temperature. Let's see, focus, camera, come on. We can see it's 20 degrees Celsius at 50%, 52% relative humidity. So it's perfect spraying conditions. I'm going to put on my mask and start spraying the guitar with another coat of the primer. Here we go. What the heck? So guys, it's the next day. Time to take the guitar from the spray booth and into the shed. Yeah guys, applying a clear coat finish can be a very time consuming and repetitive job of sanding the guitar, spraying 1 or 2 coats of lacquer or finish, wait for it to dry, sand it back or sand it flush, spray another 1, 2 coats that day, wait for another day to dry, sand it flush, and so on until you have 9, 10, maybe even 12 coats of finish on the guitar. So it can take up to almost 2 weeks of the same repetitive job. So it is what it is, and this time I'm going to try and sand as light as possible to not remove as much of the sprayed primer and hopefully start to build up some thickness in my finish. So yeah, like in previous clips, it's just sanding the guitar down until it's nice and even and smooth, and then I'll decide whether or not to spray another coat of primer, or maybe I can proceed on to the clear lacquer. But yeah, first there's some sanding in my near future. So, all done and dusted, time to spray. I think another coat of primer, just to be safe. So guys, we're back upstairs. The guitar is already in the spray booth, and you can see I've changed my setup a bit. The spray booth used to stand on the floor, but my wife said, why are you spraying everything, squat it down? Why don't you just raise it up so you can stand up while working, and it's much easier on your back. And she was right, so we placed the entire spray booth on a little side table we had laying around. And now I can just stand up while I'm spraying the guitar. It's much more ergonomic, much easier on my back, and more pleasant to spray a guitar. So yeah, I decided to spray another coat of primer, so here we go. Turn on the fan. looks good. Let it dry for 24 hours. I don't know how it is for you guys, but I always get very nervous when doing a clear coat on a guitar. I always get very anxious or insecure about if I'm following the right process and if everything is going as I hope it would go. And that's mainly because I'm not certain what I'm aiming for. My philosophy is, when doing something, if you know what the end result should look like and you know the steps, you'll be able to achieve that goal. And when applying a clear coat, especially with a new system, I'm not sure what each step should look like. For example, now when I'm doing the primer, and should the primer be just a very thin layer that's mostly absorbed by the wood, or should I have an amount of buildup of the primer on the guitar? Should I sand the primer in between coats until it's a fully smooth and flat surface, or is it just a matter of scuffing up the surface so the next coat of primer has something to grab onto? And how should the final coat of primer look on the guitar before applying the clear lacquer? Should every pore be filled? Should it be a glass-like surface before applying the clear coat? I'm not really sure about these steps, and that makes me very insecure at some time. So yeah, like I said, clear coating a guitar for me is always a bit stressful, and that has also to do with the fact that I don't do this enough. If you spray clear coats on guitars on a very regular basis, you get, like with anything, muscle memory, and you know where your pitfalls might be and where the points of attention might be when applying primer and clear coat. So yeah, that means I'm going to need a lot of practice and a lot of guitars to be sprayed in a clear coat before I can call myself proficient with it. So guys, unfortunately this is all I have time for in this week's episode. Having to wait for the rain and having to set up the indoor spray booth set me back a couple of days, unfortunately. So yeah, applying the clear coats, the final coats of clear onto the guitar, have to wait until the next episode. And to make matters worse for you guys, I have such a busy schedule for coming week, both with spraying the final coats of lacquer onto the guitar, visitors here to the shop, and a very nice weekend away with the entire family. So I don't have any time to edit next week's episode. So I have to skip a week, unfortunately, but make sure to keep an eye out for that one. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel and you have your little bell underneath this video set to notify all, so you get notified when I upload something new or when I happen to go live with a live stream. Yeah, that's it guys. I hope you liked this video, and as always, if you did, let me know by leaving a like, leave a comment, question or suggestion in the comment section down below. It really helps out the channel a lot, and I really like to hear your guys' experience with applying a clear coat lacquer to your guitar building project. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what your experience is with applying clear coats. That said, I hope to see you all in the next episode, and as always, until then, take care and bye bye.